Right was left, right was left. This one? Right, left, right was left. Sinister hand. And then one after another, 8 numbers flashed on, then off of the face of Junpei's bracelet. He checked one more time to be sure. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 1, 4. I'm probably not even going to need to write this down. This will probably be like something else. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. 14, 38, 34, 21. Huh? Hey, what are those numbers? Junpei didn't answer. He couldn't answer. He had no idea what they were either. Besides, he was pretty sure he would forget the numbers and the order they came in if he said anything. 1, 4, 3, 8, 3, 4, 2, 1. Muttering the numbers to himself over and over, Junpei headed towards the bedroom. Before long, he found himself in front of the safe again. Its lock was the only device he could think of that required a sequence of numbers, such as the ones he'd just discovered. Besides, someone had opened the safe at least once already. Had Clover come to the bedroom to open it? Junpei slowly dialed in the numbers the bracelet had given him. 1 to the right, 4 to the left, 3 to the right, 8 to the left, 3 to the right, 4 to the left, 2 to the right, 1 to the left. Finished. Junpei heard a small, telltale sound of a lock opening. He grabbed the handle, took a deep breath, and pulled it up. Inside was a piece of paper. It was roughly the same size as the one Clover had been holding. Junpei picked it up. This is what it said. Fact 1. The nonary game was played once before 9 years ago. Fact 2. The person with the number 2 bracelet attended the game 9 years ago. Snake! Fuck! Fact 3. It was planned by the following 4 people. Ace! Cradle Pharmaceutical CEO, Gentaro Hongo, whatever. Cradle Pharmaceutical Chief of Staff, Nagisa Nijisaki. Cradle Pharmaceuticals R&D Supervisor. Someone. Majority shareholder in Cradle Pharmaceutical. Someone else. I must punish them for the innocent lives they sacrificed. It's the only warning they will receive. The innocent souls might be saved. I now state the truth. 0. Junpei left the closet. There were 5 people waiting for him in the bedroom. Ace, Lotus, Santa, 7, and June. He looked at each one of them in turn and then slowly placed his hands in the pockets of his vest. Sorry, but do you think you could all come with me? Come with you? I want all of you to go to the big hospital room. Why? There's something I want to be sure of. What do you want to be sure of? I want to know if the person I suspect is really the culprit. Wait, you're saying Yeah. I think I've got it figured out. I know who killed Snake and Clover. The atmosphere of the room changed. Grief was suddenly gone, replaced by attention, like a strap of a leather stretched to its limit. 5 sets of eyes stared at Junpei, who pretended not to notice. Anyway, if you'd all please move to the big hospital room. I'll explain everything as soon as we get there. Then, almost as if on cue, the bell began to ring. They all heard it. It was the bell from the clock in the main staircase. The bell rang 5 times, then ceased. It was 5 o'clock. They had only an hour left. We don't have a lot of time left. Let's go. Slowly, one by one, they followed Junpei out of the bedroom. I did not fucking see that coming. Actually, before we get started, I was hoping you could do something for me. Junpei stopped in front of door 3 and turned around. Ace, 7 and Lotus, could you please place your palms on the red? Huh? Huh? Why? If we need to get to the shower room, why don't we just... No, we're not going inside. Once you've authenticated, step away from the door. Why? Please, just do it. Or perhaps you don't want to know who killed Snake and Clover. Junpei's implication was clear, and 7 understood perfectly. Well, fine. What about you, Ace? Lotus? Very well. Sure. Quickly, they pressed their palms onto the red. Once they had finished, they stepped away from the door, as Junpei had instructed. 3 asterisks shone from the red's display panel. Junpei approached it and held his bracelet over the scanner. He made quite sure he didn't place his palm on it, but instead only brought his bracelet near it. The 4th asterisk appeared, just as Junpei had expected. It was possible to authenticate without placing one's palm on the red, so long as the bracelet was brought near it. Junpei pulled the leather down. Door 3 opened, like a hungry mouth. 9 long seconds passed. And the door shut, unfed. Junpei walked slowly back to the others, who were waiting some distance from the door, talking to one another. Santa and June had joined them as well. It looked as though they hadn't found a chance to break into the conversation yet. As Junpei approached, they turned to look at him, curiosity plain on their faces. Before long, the other 3 did as well. Clearly, they were all expecting some answers. Thanks. Thanks, I appreciate your cooperation. Clearly, they'd hoped for something more forthcoming. He continued. By the way, Ace, would you mind if I asked you something? What is it? Do you know who I am? What? What kind of question? Just answer it. Please. Who am I? You're Junpei, of course. Who else would you be? Unfortunately, that's the wrong answer. Actually, I'm Santa. What? Ace's voice was full of surprise. It was also tinged with confusion and fear. Everyone else looked nearly as surprised. Santa looked especially shocked to discover he was actually someone else. If he spoke, however, the trap would be exposed. Junpei quickly continued. The clothes I'm wearing I borrowed from Junpei, and the clothes he's wearing are mine. We had a little swap. That's ridiculous. Impossible. So you're saying I'm not Santa? Of course you aren't. Why? What makes you sure I'm not Santa? If you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. 1 plus 7 plus 8 plus 3 equals 19. the digital route would be 1. But the 4 of us just opened door 3. You can't possibly be Santa. Your bracelet number isn't 3. It's 5. Right. Only then was it too late, did Ace realise his mistake. He set his jaw and glared at Junpei. You're exactly right. My bracelet number is 5. As he spoke, Junpei lifted his wrist up to show everyone the bright red 5 on his wrist. Hey wait, it wasn't bright red! Anyway, sorry Ace. I tricked you. Of course, I'm not really Santa. I'm Junpei. Who could possibly think I was? It's obvious I'm not. To think I was... ridiculous. But I guess you couldn't see just how obvious it was. I asked you before, didn't I? What makes you so sure I'm not Santa? And you answered, if you were Santa, then door 3 wouldn't have opened for us just now. Most people wouldn't say something like that. As their justification as to why I'm not Santa, I mean. First thing anyone would come to anyone else's mind wouldn't be the bracelet number. There'd only be one thing they'd say. One sentence. You don't have his face. Ace. You have prosopagnosia. Am I right? Junpei's voice was quiet and calm. He knew the truth. So did Ace. He could hear a sudden buzz of conversation from the others. Prosopagnosia? What's that? He heard Lotus begin to explain it to them. Ace glanced at them, and then turned back towards Junpei and sighed. Very well. I confess. I have prosopagnosia. I cannot differentiate human faces. Is that what this is about? You want to mock me for my disorder? No, not at all. I'm not making fun of you at all. In fact, I feel kind of bad for you. No, the reason I brought this up is that there's an excellent chance that the person who killed Snake has prosopagnosia. Ace's face tightened. His eyes narrowed. What do you mean? Junpei leaned casually against the iron piping of one of the beds. I'll just come out right with it. I think it was you, Ace. You killed him. Junpei was suddenly very aware of 5 pairs of eyes on him. He had their undivided attention now. The room had grown very, very quiet. Junpei took a deep breath. It's ridiculous. What possible evidence do you... I have 3 pieces of evidence. The first, think back to a few hours ago. You made us argue over the 3 doors here in the big hospital room. There was no way all 7 people could go through them. Lotus suggested that we sacrifice one of us. Lotus looked away awkwardly. Junpei glanced at her and continued. Then you, Ace, said, I'll stay here. Why would you say something like that? It's pretty simple, really. You didn't want us to see the dead body in the shower room. You see, if Ace had stayed behind, there were only 2 doors the rest of us could go through. Door 7 and 8. There was no way we could get through door 3, the shower room. You knew that, didn't you? That's why you volunteered to stay behind. Come on now, I think that's going a bit far. I can understand if you're jealous of my bravery, but please don't devalue my actions. I only wanted to save the rest of you. Surely you can understand my altruism. Altruism, huh? Junpei stared off into the darkness at something very interesting and lazily began to dig a persistent bit of wax out of his ear. You already knew, didn't you? You knew that whichever doors we took, we'd eventually end up back in the big hospital room. What on earth are you saying? Of course I didn't know that. How could I have? Really? Yes, yes. Pleading was not something they'd heard from Ace before. Junpei pulled a piece of wax from his ear, glanced at it, and then flicked it off into the darkness. Well, that's cool. I've still got 2 more pieces of evidence that'll say you're the killer. The second is that, as I said earlier, you have prosopagnosia. And you mean to imply that a person who can't distinguish human faces must be a bad person? Junpei, they call that prejudice. No, I'm not that stupid. Then why? Well, before I explain, I suppose there's something I should tell you. The corpse in the shower room? It's not Snake's. What? Ace's face went pale. The others looked confused as well. If the body wasn't Snake's... I didn't put it together right away, but there was something Clover told me. She said it was Snake's left arm. She said that it was a prosthetic. He lost his real arm in an accident. But the body we saw in the shower room, let's call him Guy X, Guy X's left arm was definitely flesh and blood. In other words, Guy X could possibly have been Snake. Oh god. No, that's impossible. Ace started muttering deliriously to himself, shaking his head back and forth. Junpei was long past caring. Let's say, hypothetically, that the killer didn't have prosopagnosia. If that was the case, he would immediately recognise that Guy X was not Snake. Even if the clothes were the same as Snake's, their faces would be completely different. It would have been obvious. They were different people. And yet, they still kill him. Why? Why would they kill a stranger who'd only just shown up? On the other hand, if the killer did have prosopagnosia, it makes sense. They thought Guy X was Snake and killed him. Wait just a moment. Let's say you're right, and I mistook Guy X for Snake. Even if I did, I would have had no motive to kill him. Why would I want to kill Snake? Snake is zero. I can think of at least two motives. One, Snake knew about your past. If he ever realised that he knew, that would have been really bad for you. You really didn't want that to happen. To make sure Snake's mouth stayed shut, you killed him. 2. Snake had a grudge against you. You knew that, or at least you could have easily assumed he did. Even without exposing your identity, he was a threat to you. You never knew when you might be attacked. You couldn't ever let your guard down. Every moment was a moment he might try something. You didn't want that kind of danger hanging over you, so you... Hey, hold on a minute. For the first time since the beginning of Junpei's explanation, someone besides Ace spoke. What's the past that Ace wouldn't want us to know? Why did Snake have a grudge against him? Look at this. He handed Santa the small piece of paper. Santa squinted at the paper and began to read. The Monterey Games played 9 years. Person with an arm and attended the game 9 years. It was planned by the following 14. What is this? Slowly, Santa looked up from the paper. His eyes met Junpei's. It's a message from Zero. It was in the safe in the first-class cabin. Then suddenly... Give me a break! Ace's face was red and shaking. His voice was full of fury, tinged with desperation. That paper is a lie! Someone is trying to frame me! Me? You said me, right? Junpei's eyes narrowed, and the trap began to close. Ace inhaled sharply, his eyes flickered off to Junpei. Something, anything else. Wouldn't that mean that you're admitting you're Hongu? However you say that, the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical? Or am I mistaken? It was as though a switch had been flipped. The colour drained from Ace's face. As he realised what he'd done, his eyes went wide. Very well. I admit that much. I'm certainly the CEO of Cradle Pharmaceutical. So what if I am? I don't know anything about this nonnery game that supposedly took place 9 years ago. Everything on that scrap of paper is bullshit. Someone is trying to set me up, you see. First of all, they stammered as he tried desperately to work himself into a more tenable position. Junpei, you're claiming I did all this by myself. Think that over, alright? How could I have killed Snake all by myself? Hang on, wait, 1 plus 9 is... He's got 9's bracelet, so... If we're going that if he has a 9's bracelet, then 1 plus 9 is 10. Plus 2 is 12. 1 plus 2 is 3. Yes. Not Snake. It was Guy X. I don't care who it was. You said the killer put this other man into door 3, right? Yeah, maybe. Then I couldn't have possibly done it alone. I couldn't have opened door 3 with only myself and Guy X. No, you could have. Huh? What? Ace's face was tight, and his teeth were clenched. Junpei fixed him with a level stare. The trap was about to close. Actually, Ace, when you were unconscious, I took something from you. Remember when you were injected with that anesthetic and fell asleep in the big hospital room? Hey, back then. I took this. Junpei put his hand into his pocket. No, you couldn't have... Ace's right hand moved. Junpei smiled. I got you, Ace. Your right hand tells me all I need to know. You want to tell me what you're so worried about? What's in your pocket? It's the number 9 bracelet, isn't it? Ace, Guy X, and the 9th man's bracelet. That was all you needed to open door 3. 1 plus 2 plus 9 is 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. That's how you killed Guy X by yourself, Ace. All you needed was the number 9 bracelet in your chest pocket. Ace lowered his hand from where it had stopped, halfway to his pocket. He looked down at the floor, his face hidden from Junpei. All he could see was the corner of Ace's mouth twitching like a dying fish. If you want to play innocent, that's fine by me. Go ahead, tell me. I don't have the bracelet, if that's what you want to do. But if you could take off your coat and hand it to me, I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, we'll have to take it from you by force. Right, 7? Yeah. It'd be my pleasure. 7 cracked his knuckles with a sound like gunfire. Ace roared with laughter. He threw his arms wide and his head back and laughed, filling the whole room with a sound that scarcely belonged there. Then it stopped. His arms came down and his head drooped to look straight ahead at Junpei. His face was flat and cold, devoid of any emotion. Well done, Junpei. As you so correctly deduced, I have the number 9 bracelet. I retrieved it while we were searching for the missing hardware for the Red. I left the room I was supposed to search and headed to the first-class cabin on B deck. His voice showed no emotion, no sense of remorse or interest. It was almost bored, as though he was reciting an especially dull corporate letter. My purpose was to obtain the number 9 bracelet. 9 is a potent ally in the nonary game. Adding 9 to any set of the numbers won't alter the digital root. As you can see, 9 is a very useful number here. With it, one can go anywhere, with anyone. So I made for the first-class cabin to obtain it. Ace successfully acquired the number 9 bracelet. He also found an unexpected bonus. The knife the 9th man had been holding. He slipped both of them into his chest pocket and left, as quickly as he'd come. He walked down the stairs and headed back to where he was supposed to be. That was when he met Guy X and mistook him for Snake. Snake was on his way to the large hospital room and had not noticed Ace behind him. Ace made sure it stayed that way. He followed the man wearing Snake's clothes to door 3. When the man stopped, he walked up behind him, quietly, and called out, "Snake!" The man turned to look at Ace. He said nothing. No words came out of his half-open mouth. He seemed dazed somehow, almost like a man half asleep. Perhaps he had been drugged? It didn't matter to Ace. Ace was certain the man was Snake. He knew Snake had been part of the nonary game 9 years before. Snake hadn't recognised Ace immediately, but he was blind. That much made sense. Why then hadn't Snake said anything to him? Surely he hadn't forgotten what happened to him in the nonary game. But not once had he attempted to confront Snake. Perhaps his lack of sight had prevented him from recognising Ace. Or perhaps Snake conspired with Zero to deceive Ace. In either event, he was a threat. It was better to deal with him sooner rather than later. Ace's mind was made up. He moved. He held the number 9 bracelet over the red. He waved his own bracelet in front of the red and finally grabbed Snake's arm and shoved his hand against the scanner panel. The door opened. Ace threw the man through it. 9 seconds later, the door shut. "81 seconds passed. The man inside the door passed away. After that, I returned to my post as though nothing had happened. After conducting my own search, I returned to the large hospital room when the 1 a.m. bell rang. Ace's eyes were cold and his cheeks were hollow and pallid. When he spoke, only his lips and tongue moved. The rest of his face was eerily still. Junpei glared at Ace. He took a deep breath, thought about the next question he had to ask. He didn't want to. He knew what the answer would be. He just didn't want to hear it. Junpei swallowed and then spoke. "Ace, did you kill Clover?" "Yes." "Why? Why did you kill her?" "She was Snake's sister. It was possible he had told her something dangerous. Additionally, she had gone through door 1. It seemed likely she might have found it." "Found what?" "Won't you go through door 1 yourself? Perhaps it's hidden somewhere." Seven and Lotus interrupted. "Yeah, but Lotus and I went through door 1 too. We didn't see anything suspicious." "Yes, I thought as much after I heard your report at the central stairs. I doubt the 2 of you could find it. But perhaps Clover was different. Perhaps she had found it. I was therefore desperate to find her. And at last I did in the first-class cabin. I spoke very calmly. Did you see it?" "See what?" "Don't act as if you don't understand. You were in the captain's quarters, weren't you?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" Very well. By the way, what are you doing here, Clover?" What? What? Nothing. There's blood on your shoes. It looks fresh. Did you go take a look at the 9th man's corpse?" "Listen. Your silence suggests that you noticed. You saw something, didn't you? You saw that his bracelet was gone." Clover ran. She made for the exit, but Ace stood in her way. "You aren't going anywhere." He caught her by the collar as she passed and threw her onto the floor. Hard. She leapt back up and darted past him into the hallway. Ace followed at a run. He was faster. That is how I killed Clover. His face hadn't changed. If he felt guilt or remorse or anything one might feel after taking the life of another human being, it did not show. "You son of a bitch!" Seven's whole body trembled with rage and his voice rumbled with hate. Santa's eyes were bloodthirsty and Lotus and June's faces were distorted by anger and hatred. Ace looked at them and smiled. It was a cold, cruel thing with no humour in it. He shook his head and sighed. "I admit it. I've lost. I have lost completely and utterly. But don't misunderstand, Junpei, I didn't lose to you. I lost to Zero, not you. I'm rather disgusted with myself for falling into such a simple trap. It was a trap, make no mistake. I was trapped and manipulated by Zero. The man I killed in the shower room, if he wasn't Snake, then I have no idea who he was. He was wearing Snake's clothes, and that was no coincidence. He'd also been injected by something that reduced his cognition and prevented him from identifying himself or resisting me. We can't forget the components that were removed from the red before we arrived. I had no doubt that Zero planned all of this. Zero made sure I would kill that man. It follows, of course, that Zero knew everything I would do. That I would try to take the number 9 bracelet. That I would try to kill Snake. Everything. Suddenly Junpei remembered the paper he'd found in the safe. He remembered the last words Zero had written on it. I must punish them. The innocent lives they sacrificed. This is the only warning they will receive. That innocent souls might be saved, I now state the truth. Zero. He remembered other words. Words he'd heard from Clover. I think Zero is one of us. One by one, Junpei looked at the 5 people standing in front of him. Ace. Santa. June. 7. Lotus. Zero is one of us. No, Junpei paused. There was one more person. Snake. It was clear now that the man who died in the shower room was not Snake. That meant that Snake was almost certainly still alive. Perhaps Snake was Zero. Perhaps Snake had made Guy X wear his clothes, so that he would appear to be dead. Where was Snake now? Perhaps he was somewhere, laughing at them. If he was Zero, surely he had lied about many other things. Was he watching them? Well, I believe I've finished with my confession. Why don't we get moving? He sounded as if he'd just finished doing nothing more exciting than describing the weather. For Santa, it was the last straw. What the hell is this shit? You aren't going anywhere, you son of a bitch. We're gonna leave your ass here to rot. Why? Because I killed Clover? That's ridiculous. Why are you so upset that I killed the little bitch? She was nothing to you. A stranger you met only a few hours ago. Am I wrong? You bastard! 7 roared and lifted a fist that would likely have shattered Ace's jaw. But someone else was faster. It was Lotus. She stepped towards Ace and raised a fist of her own. And drove it straight into his nose. Huh? You've got some fire, don't you? I confess I rather like a tough woman. He sniffed and wiped a small trickle of blood from his nose with a raised eyebrow. Oh, maybe you'd like another one then? Before that, let me give you one of my own. Huh? Lotus scarcely had time to blink. Ace snicked his arm around her and pulled Lotus's back up against him. Same motion, he reached into his coat pocket. Oh, fuck! It was a gun!